the president's focus and energy toward an outcome that could favor the West, but also ensure long-term peace and security for Ukraine. The meeting, of course, also sets the table for tomorrow, when Trump will host President Zelensky at the White House. Joining me now to discuss, Kurt Volker, former U.S. ambassador to NATO and former U.S. special representative for Ukraine negotiations in the first Trump administration. It's good to have you with me this morning. So first of all, in terms of Kier Starmer today, what can he do? What should he do? What does he need to do to set the table in many ways for ultimately what one would hope would be a positive negotiation tomorrow between Presidents Trump and Zelensky?
Right. Well, I think the first thing that's going to be on his mind is the U.S.-UK relationship itself, and making sure that the U.S. and U.K. are in full alignment on a range of issues. He is concerned about tariffs. He's concerned about tariffs on Europe. So he wants to make sure that the U.S.-UK relationship is solid. Within that, he wants to come forward with proposals for what Europe can do to help assure Ukraine's security going forward. I think everyone is looking at the prospect of a ceasefire that President Trump is trying to push through. But if that does happen, you're going to need to prevent Putin from rearming and attacking again. And this is where I think President Trump is looking to Europe to take the lead. And it's on Starmer and earlier this week, President Macron, really to try to put that package together.
And that was certainly a lot of what we heard, right, in the multiple times that we heard from President Macron and President Trump earlier this week, talking about that security guarantee in terms of peacekeeping forces, European peacekeeping forces. President Trump has been very clear where he stands on that, but there's still a bit of a gap. How much do you imagine that will, in fact, be part of the conversation, especially behind closed doors between him and Kier Starmer?
Yeah, well, definitely it will be, because I think while the Europeans are going to be prepared to put forces on the ground, maybe help with air defense, do a variety of things to help assure Ukraine's future security, they're also going to want to have U.S. backup. If something goes terribly wrong, if Russia attacks the European forces, they want to know that the U.S. is going to be there and ready to help out. And this is something where Trump, I think, is probably prepared to say yes in a standoffish backup role, but he wants to know what the Europeans are putting on the table first.
I only have time for a quick yes or no. You say that the president is preferred to say yes in a standoffish way. Is that something that he would say yes to in terms of putting in a signed agreement, you think?
No, I think it's going to be an oral agreement. I think he's looking for a ceasefire, and then he's looking for an agreement with Russia on ending the war. That, I think, is unlikely. But then I think with the European forces, he's looking for them to take the lead, and we will commit to that we will have backup if needed.
Kurt Volker, appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just